lovely to join you all this evening and to hear so many wonderful international perspectives. My name is Natalie and I am the Community Education Officer for the Parliament of South Australia. And I am, up until very recently, the only person doing community education and engagement for our entire parliament. So it makes me very jealous when I hear of what some of the national parliaments and larger jurisdictions have in terms of teams. So what I'm going to show you today will be a little bit different, but to show you a perspective from a smaller jurisdiction and how we do regional outreach and remote outreach in South Australia. It's very important for me to acknowledge the Aboriginal land that I'm on here in South Australia. So this is the map of Indigenous Australia, and I'm where the red circle is at the bottom on Kaurna land. So I acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional owners of the land that I'm on tonight, or today, or the morning. So what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of South Australian context. I'm very conscious of time and I get super excited when I talk about parliamentary education. So I'll go through that really quickly. And then I'm going to talk to you about our regional and remote education strategy in South Australia with a bit of an education hat on, but I will show you some of the flow-on effects that targeting schools can have for larger engagement through teachers and parents and then the broader community. So I love a map and I love maps that overlay other maps on them. And I've tried to give you a bit of an idea of the sheer size of Australia because I think sometimes people forget that we are quite massive. So there's Europe over the top of Australia. And South Australia is at the centre bottom of our country, and South Australia can fit the UK 4 times over inside of it, or the entirety of Italy, Germany and Norway combined. So we are quite a large state with a very small parliament, and we have a lot of distance to cover with a small
Tenemos mucha distancia que recorrer con un número.
L'une des communautés les plus éloignées du Parlement sont les...
the border, and that's a 20-hour drive from our parliament, and you have to cross into a different territory of South Australia if you want to go on a sealed road, or you have to add 5 hours driving time on if you want to tackle a dirt road and a 4-wheel drive. So we have a long way to go to try and reach these communities. And one of the things that I did when I took on this position was think about how we reach these places. And I came up with two larger concepts. The first is that we have to take our programs to the communities. And the second is that we have to bring the communities to us. So how can we find a way to target communities using these two approaches? So the first one I'm going to talk about is bringing communities to us, bringing them to our parliament in Adelaide, South Australia. And we've got 2 things going in this space at the moment. The first is a financial grant model, and the second is a video linked program model. And I'm going to talk about the financial grants first. We have lovingly termed this Civics in the City. And Civics in the City is a school-based initiative, but it has larger flow-on effects. So what we decided to do was contact all schools that were outside of the metropolitan area public transport range and schools that met low socioeconomic category rankings. So our schools are given a score, and categories 1 to 4 out of 7 are considered lower socioeconomic schools, whereas categories 5 to 7 are higher socioeconomic category schools. So every school in South Australia who was out of public transport or category 1 to 4 received an email from us offering the opportunity to receive money to come and visit us at the Parliament of South Australia. We've sent the email out to everybody, and the money that was promised was on a per student head basis. So if you were 20 to 50 kilometres away from our parliament, you could get 20 Australian dollars per student head. So I've tried to put some conversions there for you into euro and British pounds so you can see the difference. And some of the schools that are furthest away, so more than 500 kilometres from our parliament, they would receive $120 per student head. To give you a bit of an indication of what we actually gave away, the smallest grant allocation was 1,500 Australian dollars, which is about 970 euro or 850 pounds. And the largest amount we gave away was 3,000 Australian dollars, 2,000 euro or 1,700 pounds. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but to these schools, it makes a huge difference in the accommodation costs and the bus costs to bring those kids into the city, along with the parents and the teachers. We chose 5 schools out of the applicants to receive this in our trial, and we're hoping to open it up to 30 schools in 2023 to give 30 schools the opportunity to get this money. We assessed them by the last time they got to visit the city. So some of the kids who came to visit us this year have never been to our capital city before. We assessed it by how many opportunities they have in their local area. So do people come and visit them regularly? And have we done any other programs with them? So I think here on this map, you can see the spread of the 5 schools that were chosen for the first round. So the little blue building is our parliament, and the little pin drops are the schools that we've chosen. And for context, the one right at the north of our state is about 1,400 kilometres away. So we managed to get these kids to come into the city to see us. And I hope you're prepared for some serious cuteness, because I'll show you what they received when they came into the city. We had this school from Lee Creek, and they came to our parliament, and some of them were in the city for the very first time. We give them an educational program teaching them about our levels of government and how our systems work in Australia. Then we take them into the chambers and we dress them up, and we have them do a real parliamentary debate. The gentleman speaking at the back is the Member of Parliament who covers their remote area of South Australia. He's actually a minister, and we had them role play question time. And so we had the students asking him questions, and he stood in his position as in the chamber as a minister and answered their questions. We let them do a debate, and they did a debate on whether all schools in South Australia should have free laptops for kids, which was really, really interesting. And then we showed them how to do an election and how our voting system worked. So it was really quite lovely. And one of the things that has happened from this is that all of the parents that had the experience in Adelaide with the kids got to pass the information that we provided on to their friends and family in the communities. All of the teachers that came to support those students got to take the information to other teachers in the school. So even though we're starting our engagement strategy and our education strategy through kids, the flow-on effects are huge. Like we find that the students will go and tell their friends and family about what they've learned and show them how to vote and show them how to contact their Member of Parliament. So some of the positives of our financial grant model are that we get to deliver a really high quality program. We get to bring these kids into the city and pay them to, come and have this experience, and information is getting out to smaller communities. But some of the things that I will struggle with as a smaller jurisdiction is the cost. Obviously, I would love to fund as many as possible, but where do we draw the line with this kind of expenditure? I wish I had an infinite budget for this kind of thing. And the other issue that we have is that it takes time away from our other programming, our regular programming. And so how do we get the balance right between our metropolitan and city-based students versus our regional and remote students? The other thing, which I'll only touch on very quickly, is our video linked strategy to bring people to us. We have a relatively small uptake on this, but we offer video linked programs, so similar to what we're doing now using Zoom or MS Teams. And we connect into places, and this isn't just schools. I have done this with the broader public as well to give them an information session. And we show them how electorates work. So this was one that my colleague supported me with today for some students. And we also workshop how to have their say. So in this particular session, the students were taught all of the different ways that they can engage with us. And then we took their work and we provide it to the local member. So the video programs are new, and we're going to expand them in 2023. But those are the 2 key ways that we're trying to bring people to us, paying them to be here and connecting them through video. The other big thing that I wanted to touch on before my time runs out is the second model. So bringing people to us and then us going out to the communities. We have our regional education program, which is growing and growing. And the way that it started is that we did an assessment of all of the visitation that we've had to our parliament, seeing where visitors have come from. And we identified our electorates, or some of you might call these constituencies, that had the lowest visitation within the last 5 years. So finding people who hadn't been here at all, or maybe people who had only come 1 or 2 times. And we found the electorate with the lowest visitation, and then we looked at the lowest socioeconomic ranking for the electorate as well.
El ranking socioeconómico más bajo dentro de ese
Économique. Une fois que nous avions pu identifier ces
area, it didn't matter if they were from a government school or if they were a Catholic school or an independent school, we approached them all. And what we did is travelled out to the regions. So on this map here, you should be able to see I've put a ring around it. That's the first area we targeted, and it's a large wheat growing farming region in South Australia, and the communities are really widely spread out. So we took a travelling approach, and every day we drove to a school in the morning and then had a lunch break where we drove to the next school in the afternoon, a couple of hours drive, and we would set up equipment and deliver a program. This is where it gets pretty snazzy, because we have giant 6 metre by 4 metre floor mats of the parliamentary chambers and the steps of Parliament House. So we put them in a school gym or a classroom or a community centre, and we physically position these students in the chambers like they're actually there in the building. We bring out our prop kit, which has the carpets from our chambers. I got our carpet factory to make sure we had the real chamber carpets. We bring out a mace and a black rod and wigs and robes, and we get the students to dress up and debate. We do electoral role plays, and we try and showcase both Houses of Parliament, and very importantly, at the end, they stage a demonstration on the steps of Parliament House on our floor mat of the steps. We collect all of this work from the students, we give it to the local member of parliament, and we request that the member of parliament write a letter back to these kids to indicate what they're doing in this space. So every single one of those students gets to walk away feeling like they've engaged with their parliament and have been heard by the member. And sometimes the local members come and participate. It's really wonderful, and the members are very enthusiastic because we are servicing their electorates and bringing Parliament to life for them. So the first round that we did was schools only, and it was that travelling model that I mentioned where we went from site to site. The second attempt at this, we went to a much larger city where they had a population of about 23,000. So we rented out a community centre, and that meant we didn't have all the travel time and we could add things on. So we decided that in addition to kids, we would start targeting all of the teachers, and we would run professional learning for the teachers to show them how to teach the content. If any school couldn't afford to get a shuttle bus to come to the venue, we paid for it for them. So the program is completely free and accessible to all. So this is a sample of us doing the teacher professional learning work, and I'm explaining to them how the chambers are laid out and how we can run a vote. Our third attempt, we decided to get even bigger and better. And so in addition to doing all the schools and the teachers, we then decided to run a community seminar, and we invited members of the general public to come to our hub with all of our floor mats so we could explain how their parliament worked. And it turned out that a lot of the people who registered were public servants who worked in that regional area, who wanted to understand better how they were connected to this parliament in the city that they didn't get to see or didn't get access to, and how they were connected through their ministers. Now, it was very sad because we had planned this community seminar and it did attract the local public servants, but then it had to be converted online due to COVID. So we had the model and the venue and all of the participants, and I ended up having to deliver it online, which is sad. But the good news is that we've grown from the first 3 regional and remote experiences, and now we have a full model on how to get students, teachers and the broader community learning about Parliament and learning how to engage with it. So on this map, I've indicated where we have been for our first 5 regional trips. So we're sort of spreading ourselves across the state as much as possible. The pros and cons is that South Australia has a population of about just over 1 million. The pro is that we've reached 3,000 students only, and that's just kids. That doesn't include the adults, and that's just in this year. So that's quite big for us, reaching that many regional kids. The other positive is that it creates great opportunities for local MPs to follow up. The downside is that we've lost the impact of the real building. I find that when you're doing these kinds of programs, having the venue makes it so powerful and engaging. But the formats are, I think, a decent compromise. It's quite expensive. It costs us about 6,000 Australian dollars every time we want to do one of these trips, and that hasn't involved us flying to a destination yet, so it will increase in cost. And it also takes me out of the office for almost a month total of the year. And for someone who's running with only myself and now one other person supporting me, that's a lot of time for me to be away from my other duties. We're not going to let it go though. I'm determined to do 4 a year. So I've just gone one too far. So these are the areas that we're targeting, and I'm off in 2 weeks' time to do our first flight over to Port Lincoln to deliver one in our coastal regions. And it's summer by the water in Australia. I don't even feel like I'm going to be working. So to wrap it all up, I guess I should explain where we're moving next with this. I'm trying to angle for more money for the civics and the city financial grants. And so if it's not coming from the Parliament, I've asked our Department for Education, our government department, to see if they'll top up my budget. I'm aiming to keep doing 4 regional visits a year, and we're extending even further out. So we're going to get more and more remote. Similar to what Resita was saying at the beginning, we're trying to empower local electorates and local members to self-deliver and self-engage these programs. So we've created a loan kit of our mats and equipments for our members to borrow. And we're constantly trying to improve and grow our digital program experience. So I'm so sorry if I went slightly over my 15 minutes. I did say I have zero control when it comes to this content. So I apologise, but hopefully you can see what a smaller jurisdiction like a state-based parliament in Australia can do to try and reach regional and remote communities. Thank you.